What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Batman News Weekly. This is episode 206 in year 4, and today we have one topic. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It is not a lot going on in this news cycle, and it is involving Jim from The Office. Is the big news that's coming out this week is he's rumored to play Batman. I don't know where this is coming from, Clay. I just saw it and I was like, I saw it on like a DC Spanish Twitter. So it was like, obviously, you had to translate it and whatnot. And sometimes when you translate those things on Twitter, they're not the best. So I don't know all the stuff that it's coming from. But
yeah, the initial post, I actually got it right here. The translation comes from insiders are hinting that John Krasinski is in talks for a role within the DC universe. Our bet is that he can interpret Batman pretty well. What do you think? Now, this is legit just their assumption that he's going to be Batman. And then it took Twitter and the internet by storm. And guys, this one, I legitimately will have to always agree on what Juice usually says. If it's not coming from James Gunn, don't believe it. We had heard weeks ago that the casting for Batman was
miles off.
Miles away. And I had heard that there was a response from James Gunn regarding this rumor. But even so, I had posted it in the Discord, and you said for Batman, no thanks. And you said for Green Lantern, you would be okay with him.
Yeah. I mean, if he's going to be a Hal Jordan, I mean, he's tall, he's got the body, he can be comedic.
Mm-hmm.
And he can also play dry humor really well. And I don't necessarily, because like when I see Hal, like Hal's not like slapstick, haha comedy to me, but he's also not super dry.
Yeah.
But I think Krasinski could do really well as a Green Lantern. So I would go with him. I just don't think he has the look. Here's the thing about Krasinski. I don't find him intimidating. And
honestly, I have been watching him in the Jack Ryan series on Amazon Prime. I think he does it very, very well. He is just, of course, this like CIA agent. He does the action very well. He was also in the movie 13 Hours, which I have not seen, but I know that's like the start of his like serious takes on film and in television. But I think he does it very well. I don't see him as a Batman. In all honesty, I do, however, can see him as a Ted Kord.
That would be interesting. Although the director of Blue Beetle said his Ted Kord is what's his face?
Oh shoot,
I forgot. I'm trying to find
Sudeikis.
it. Yeah. What's his full name?
Is it
Jason Sudeikis? I think is his
Sudeikis. Yeah, Jason.
I'm trying to pull it up.
Yeah, Jason Sudeikis. He said here the quote is, "My dream actor for Ted Kord has always been Jason Sudeikis," which is where those rumors came from. I'm guessing the director had said it somewhere and then somebody overheard him. But at the end of the day, it's about who is best for the character, who loves what we're trying to do, and who is willing to see Jaime Reyes' story continue. I can see Jason Sudeikis in the role. I can also see Jim from The Office, John Krasinski, just because again it's the dry humor. I think that John Krasinski works really well when he is working off of somebody, which Ted Kord has always bounced off of that of a Booster Gold. Even better if Jaime Reyes is there as well. So if John Krasinski was going to be in the DCU and he wasn't Ted Kord, clearly is not going to be Batman. I don't know who he could play, to be honest. I don't see him in a hero role. If anything, I see him like maybe as a side character. I can't remember his name. I'm sure somebody could help us out here, but there is like a jock type of reporter at the Daily Planet that's a really big fan of Booster Gold. I could see Krasinski playing that character, but nothing big wise. But I know that Krasinski is a big enough actor now that I don't think he would just take a side character role.
I just don't see him as Ted Cord, because you got to, if I had to put money on it, Booster Gold is going to be Chris Pratt. So I don't think Krasinski and Chris Pratt, I just don't see that as a good duo, to be honest. Because when I think about it, I feel like, I don't know Chris Pratt's height, but he feels shorter than a lot of people, and he's stockier than a lot of people. And when I think Booster, I think tall and skinny. So I think Krasinski looks more tall and skinny than Chris Pratt. So I don't know. But I don't think that's how it's going to happen. I do think Chris Pratt is going to be Booster Gold, because Booster Gold is silly, is comedic. Chris Pratt just made $1 billion as Mario with his terrible voice, and I think he is just going to get that role. So
according to the internet, Chris Pratt is 6'2".
Okay. So yeah, I don't know how tall Krasinski is, but he's not like, Chris Pratt isn't skinny. So like, I just feel like he's gonna look weird as Booster Gold, because you got to remember it's yellow, and yellow pops, and if you have somebody in yellow that is very stocky, it looks wide and big.
I wonder if they'll go more with like the golden tone of the costume rather than like pure yellow.
It's still so bright though. Like, just look at it's like fucking, oh my god, what's the Sonic villain? Egghead. I mean, he's all red, and he's round, he's like a big red ball. And not saying that's fucking what's his name, but that's just how like bright colors do that, and you don't see that a lot in superhero movies. Like that are like, I think it's why everybody's like, oh, let's go navy, let's go this, let's go that, because when you wear a bright color, it expands pretty much. But anyways, so yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be very interesting to see what they do there, but definitely don't see him as a Batman. Like, honestly.
So on Threads, somebody messaged James Gunn saying, "I'm assuming rumors about the DCU Batman casting have no truth to them," and he quote threaded this and said, "I don't know what you're talking about, but we don't even have a script, and there's a strike happening, so no casting as of yet."
Yeah.
So we had heard this weeks ago. I genuinely think there is nothing going on right now with that movie. We had said that we were pretty sure Muschietti is probably brainstorming some things, but that's probably it.
Yeah, I just don't like. Do you need? I mean, I guess you do need the script technically to cast, because there's probably like intense scenes that you're like, I need to know if you can act this out. But I also hear a lot of the times that they make fake scripts, and you read a fake script to see, like, in the same kind of tone. So it's like, oh, if he can handle this fake script, reading, or they take a script from old movies, and they're like, oh, read this part, So yeah, I don't know if you necessarily need that, but I mean, actors are on strike too now. It's not just writers, so they couldn't come in and do this kind of stuff if they wanted to, which I think a lot of them want to, but they got to be quiet. So yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen there, but Jake Gyllenhaal is still my main cover, and I've seen a lot on Twitter. Like, there's always somebody that's like, no thanks, and it has like Gyllenhaal under these kind of posts that are like, who's gonna be, and I'm like, I'm glad there's other people on that boat, and it's not fucking Jensen Ackles, because like,
I'm starting to see him less and less as like the people's favorite. He is slowly coming out as like a really big asshole.
I mean, he gives me that vibe. So, because here's the thing, that I've met a lot of nerds that are complete assholes.
Yeah,
and it's unfortunate. But it is what it is. I just don't think he fits. What's his name? The guy from The Boys really well. If he is an asshole.
Oh yeah, Soldier Boy.
Soldier Boy. Like, so, I don't know. I don't see him as Batman at all. Although people want it very badly. But
there was also a comment to James Gunn answering, and he says, "Here's a question I think you're more likely to answer. Have you given any thought to the layout of the land in the DCU, where the different cities are that the heroes operate on a map? Will they be right next to each other or spread out across the country? Will the source like the source material? DC has some great cities with their own identities. I hope we get to see that." And James Gunn said, "We are creating an incredibly detailed world map."
Yeah.
So we don't usually get to see this anymore. We had the discussion, I think, a couple weeks ago on the whole idea that, back in the day, you knew where Metropolis was, you knew where Gotham was, you knew where Central City was, and you actually got to see these maps like in comics. Nowadays, it's kind of just implied, and it depends on who's writing it, where the cities are, and everything else. And there's no real definitive like map to tell you where everything is. I think this is really cool that they are creating a world map, because it gives me hope that like in maybe 10 years and so, and of course this is me having really high hopes, but in 10 years when they make one of those giant coffee table books of like the world of the DCU, you're going to have all of the art pieces, the concept art for all of the movies, and then you're going to get in the middle of that book the actual map of the DC universe.
Yeah. The problem I have with them actually doing a map is it's going to make those nerds that are very like, well, technically they actually got here in 15 minutes in the movie, and there's no way that they can travel that distance. You know what I mean? You get those people.
These people are literal superheroes.
Yeah.
Like, come on, people.
Yeah. If you've read the books, you know Batman has a plane that goes almost as fast as the Flash.
Yeah.
So, yeah, how you would explain that in reality, that doesn't make any sense. But, still, it's comic books. He can fall from the moon, everybody, and survive. But, yeah, so, I don't know. I mean, that's going to be cool. I think it's... As much as I like to shit on Zack Snyder, I did think it was interesting that Metropolis was right next to Gotham, and they were separated by, a harbor or bay or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's never been the reality, right? Because I feel like if you did have Gotham right next to Metropolis, Superman could handle both. So I do prefer them to be apart.
Oh, that is true. I never really considered that.
Yeah, and so I think it's dumb that he just stops at the there's the bay. Can't cross water, guys. I don't think
Batman would be kind of pissed at me if I got into Gotham,
Yeah, because I feel like his Superman, although he respects Batman, if he knows he can save so many more people, he would do that. But
we see it happen in comics. We see him come into Gotham, and Batman will always be like, you didn't tell me you were coming, or all of this other stuff. But if they were legitimately right next to each other, there's no way Superman would let any of that really big stuff happen.
Yeah, and I don't think Snyder really thought that out. Which, by the way, off topic, what'd you think of Rebel Moon?
The teaser trailer was okay. I didn't think it wowed me.
Yeah.
I saw somebody say that did Zack Snyder somehow make lightsabers even cooler? I was like, and in my head, I'm thinking, they just waved them around. You didn't even get to see them in action.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, these are better than real lightsabers. And then there was somebody that even took out a piece of the Ahsoka show that debuted this week. And they were like, yeah, there's no way you can tell me this is not this is better than Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon. I'm like, none of you have even seen it yet. What the hell are y'all talking about?
Yeah, it's the dick writing for Zack Snyder's movies is insane. First of all, the one thing, I actually reviewed this on stream, so if anybody wants to go check out my last live stream, we reviewed it the day it came out. And all I have to say is, obviously, Zack Snyder stuff visually looks great. It always does. So that looks awesome. It gave me Sucker Punch vibes because he's doing every fantasy you can think of in one setting. And I'm like, there's a reason why we have different genres, because they don't all work well mixed together.
Yeah, I think I need to see a story trailer to
Yeah.
really get the vibe of what this movie's going to be.
Yeah.
And I also think it is a bad idea for him to already have a date for the second movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. Maybe he filmed both of them back to back.
Maybe.
So I don't know. I would hope so. I would hope that some of the shit that happened in that trailer is from the second movie, because there's so much. You have Tarzan that rides a Pegasus kind of monster thing, or a griff. What is it called? I don't know, tiger with wings. Yeah. You have that going on. Then you have like basically Nazi soldier zombie thingamabops or warriors that are supposed to be like the stormtroopers. Then you got lightsabers, and then you have like, I was just like, bro, how many genres are we putting into this movie right now? It's like he wanted Lord of the Rings and Star Wars together. Yeah. And I was like, bro, it was just too much. And I was like, what's the story here? I was like, what's going on? But I'm pretty sure Zack Snyder says, well, actually, if you look at it, it's actually a story about them. You know, they have the whole spiel already. But I was just like, it's okay. I mean, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
If it's not 4 hours. So
yeah, funny that you should say that, because he has been quoted to already be making a director's cut for both parts.
Did they say he couldn't do something? Why make a director's cut when the studio lets you do whatever you want?
Well, the quote was also, I just can't help myself.
I want to like Zack Snyder. I want to like him again, because I used to be a huge fan.
Yeah.
But just him never coming out against his toxic audience is what kind of killed it for me. And his toxic audience killed it for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, look, dude, I like the guy too, but y'all treat him like he's fucking Jesus. Like, you know, it's crazy. I would say better than Jesus is how I feel like they view him.
Yeah.
Like, they could see Jesus walk on water. He can come back, walk on water. And
there's the Photoshop image of Zack Snyder in the Jesus robes.
Yeah.
Like the photo that you usually see on the candles.
Yeah.
They just photoshopped Zack Snyder's
like the Virgin Mary? Or
yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's fucking wild. Anyways, so there's that. Other than that, I think we don't really have any big other news that came out. I mean, I know they announced it's like the 25th that the Flash comes out on Max or something like that. Like that was announced. There was a rumor that Blue Beetle was already going to be out on DVD next month, but I think that was a false rumor.
Yeah, so there was postings online saying that it was going to be available digitally next month. Of course, that doesn't mean streaming for free on Max. It meant VOD. So you would have to purchase it, whether that be on Google Play, iTunes, and all of that stuff. But apparently there has not been an actual confirmation from Warner Brothers that date is for real.
Yeah.
But apparently on iTunes, it is already available to pre-order. So like you can have the pre-order ready. But I think they just have like a placement date on that pre-order. So
yeah, #1 movie in the world, baby. Take that, Barbie. Only had to be 5 weeks after you released your movie, but still, we took it down. I saw somebody on Twitter was all like, hell yeah, Blue Beetle, the Mexicanas took over the white girl, or some shit like that. Like, took down the white man, or some bullshit like that. I was fucking laughing. But I mean, it's a solid movie. I did see Moist Criticals. I like to watch his opinions of it. He was like, it was a good film, but it was pretty generic superhero film still. Like,
yeah, I did see a lot of that commentary that it was kind of just more of the same.
Yeah.
A lot of people were praising all of the great things about the film, though.
Yeah.
They said it was a generic superhero film with a lot of great things added to it. Was a lot of the commentary towards it. So I do appreciate that people are like actually seeing, hey, this isn't just a normal superhero movie. In that case. And
everybody's praising Sholo, his performance. Yeah, which I think is really cool. What Critical said in that particular thing is he wished the movie because he saw that intense scene that we know about with one of the characters that happens midway through the movie. He was like, I wish the movie would have been more like that, like taking that emotional feeling from that moment and just built the whole movie more around being that serious. But I just don't think that's not Blue Beetle. You know what I mean? Blue Beetle isn't super serious. So he's their Spider-Man. That's what he's going to be, you know? I haven't watched all those Spider-Man films. I've seen 2 of the 3. I don't remember it being super emotional. I think the older Spider-Man movies were more emotional.
The most emotional one is the one that you haven't seen.
Oh, okay.
And it's just those small little spots. The whole thing around the trilogy of Spider-Man, the director came out and said, like, the 3 movies in itself is Spider-Man's origin. Now we're gonna get into like the actual Spider-Man story after this, and I'm like, God damn! Like, it only took you 6 years to complete an origin story. Fuck.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, he also had how many cameos? You know what I mean? So it's like 6 movies. So it's just like his origin, 6 movies. That's crazy. He fought an intergalactic crazy superhero. Like, it's nuts. Anyway, super villain. But yeah, so I don't know. I think that's kind of cool. I did see that. But you know what, man? Every time I see one of these movies comes out, and it will be solidified when Aquaman comes out, I think James Gunn making that announcement video was the wrong idea. Because I don't think it would have killed the box office as bad as it has.
Yeah.
So there's no other, like, even the previous movies before this, man, at least made like $300 million. And these are just lucky to even sniff that.
Yeah. And it is bad. I think the fact that there was bigger names in The Flash got it to at least bump up to over 100 million. But we have now since seen that, the budget was in fact $300 million.
Yeah.
And with all of the marketing, it was closer to a $500 million movie, like a $500 million to make that movie. And it only made 260 million.
A lot of people call bullshit on the marketing numbers that come out for a lot of movies, that they're probably like a lot more less, because like The Flash honestly was the only movie that I did see a lot of promotion for. A lot of people were like, Blue Beetle was promoted out the ass, and I'm like, where? I was like, I saw it when I went to go watch other movies.
Yeah,
but I didn't really see it anywhere like all over Twitter and stuff. But not the way I saw like The Flash. Like The Flash, I could believe that they spent a lot of money on. But yeah, man, I think it's just, at the time we were obviously really hyped, but I didn't even think about it as much as it would just kill people and be like, oh, so these movies don't matter.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you handle it differently. I think maybe you just shut up. Like, right? You don't say anything. But unfortunately, the problem is you couldn't start working on the new stuff without people hearing the rumors. You know what I mean? What you could have done, though, is if you were going to shut the hell up, you push Aquaman before The Flash, and you have The Flash reset everything, and there's your new universe. You know what I mean?
It's just wild to me that, again, like, I'm not in VFX, so I don't know how intensive everything is, but I do know, hey, you're working with an underwater world. You're having to animate hair and all of these small details. But it is wild how long it took for that movie to apparently be like actually ready to view.
I mean, we don't even have a trailer yet.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's intense. It's crazy. I don't know how they do it, but either way, well, I think we're gonna have one more DC flop, and then we can finally be like, well, this is on James Gunn now. So we'll go from there. But that is pretty much all the news we have, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very slow week going on here. I don't think there's anything we missed. There was outside of Batman news, possible concept art for the new Wonder Woman game.
I saw you posted that on the Discord. It looks really good.
Yeah. I saw a lot of people praising that she has her lasso, because I didn't know it was such a divisive thing that she had a sword. Like, people were so mad that she's using a sword. And like, it's just weird.
The sword was more popular in the creation of the New 52. Like they made her a little bit more brutal.
Yeah.
But I think that was because one of the things that they wanted to do when making the New 52 version of Wonder Woman was going back to the roots of like, you know, the gods and the brutality of it all, and you know, being trained by, she's an Amazon,
Yeah.
like they have weapons. You see how brutal they are. Like, why wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
she be the same? And so I think it's a little silly. I think the sword is a cool concept. I think
Yeah.
that, you know, we should still see her with a sword sometimes. Does she need it all the time? I don't think so. But I think there is a reason to have it, and I think there's a reason to not have it. So it can have it. I think she can work with both. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's the big thing.
Yeah, I didn't really think about now that I go back and think about Wonder Woman 1, the first movie, Patty Jenkins purposely had the sword destroyed so she didn't have to use it going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really thought about that because the second movie doesn't have it at all, which I was like kind of lame, but you know, is what it is. Anyways, moving on to viewer questions, ladies and gentlemen. We have a few. We don't have any in the Discord. Although I did ask everybody and nobody's telling me nothing. All right, we got some on YouTube. First up, we have Jason Todd. Hot take. The Injustice storyline would have been much better if it was Batman that became the dictator instead of Superman, since how he'd take over the world would be interesting, how Bat Family would react, and make fans question who is in the right more. Thoughts? I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't think it. I think it would be interesting in the fact of like just seeing another one of his plans being put into action.
Yeah.
But I think the whole thing with Injustice is, out of the two, you would expect Batman to have a plan in case anything like that were to ever happen.
Mm-hmm.
Superman is the Boy Scout, the symbol of peace and hope. Like that's what is so jarring about Injustice, is that he's the one that, you know, became evil.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Batman storyline's too easy to tell.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why it's not as interesting. But I mean, it would have been interesting to see how the Bat Family reacts, but you know, the Bat Family reacts to a lot of things, so I don't think you need Injustice for that. We got Tiny Beauty. If you were in charge, what changes would you make to Gunn's current DCU plans? I wouldn't have had to do that video, that's for sure. But right now, the only thing I would change is to say who's coming back from the old universe. Only thing. Everything else, don't care.
I think so. Currently with the slate of 10 shows and movies, I think they're solid. I think that they will have a diverse genre to them all, because we don't know anything outside of those 10. And we had heard from Gunn himself that those 10 projects were less than half of the first chapter of the DCU, which Juice had said, oh, if that's less than half, then I'm expecting no more than 25 projects.
Yeah.
Which I still think is insane for, you know, one whole chapter of a film franchise. But I think you have to let the people know, hey, these people are coming back.
Yeah.
But would you tell them in what capacity at that point?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I would just, you know, rip the Band-Aid off and be like, hey, they're coming back as these characters, and you know, we're recasting some other ones. That's it.
Like if Gal was not Wonder Woman, but she was coming back, would you go ahead and tell the world, hey, Gal isn't going to be Wonder Woman, but she is going to be this character?
No, I wouldn't do that at all. If they're not coming back as their characters, they're not coming back. Well,
Okay.
I don't see that point. Like, I wouldn't recast Ben Affleck or Henry Cavill in something that they're not Batman or Superman. Like, I think that's just a bad move.
Like that was the implication that a lot of people got from what Gunn had said, though, is that people were going to be coming back in different roles.
I think that would be dumb. I mean, if he did do that, like why would you waste like Margot Robbie as somebody else that's not Harley Quinn when she's already shown that? Unfortunately, you can't say she is technically a box office draw, but Harley Quinn has yet to do that essentially. Although, I mean, she is the best part of the original Suicide Squad film. So, yeah, I don't know. But I wouldn't recast anybody. I think that's dumb. The only person I think that's going to get recast in the DCU is going to be Jason Momoa to be
Aquaman.
Yeah. Well, he'll be, what's his face?
Oh, Lobo.
Yeah. So I think he's the only one that's going to get recast. I think everybody else is going to be either themselves or nobody. So we'll see what happens. But I just think it would be a miss to recast Gal Gadot, to be honest.
Yeah.
Moving on from that, we have Eduardo de la Cruz with the little skit going on here. He's like, "What's up, bitches?" You got Clay saying Harley Quinn. Hey, I told you to stay in the basement. Fine. I was having some interesting talks with Ollie anyways, and I got to ask you nerds, who would win? Jason Todd versus Jason Voorhees, Lobo versus Deadpool, Keaton Vulture versus Keaton Batman. Keaton Batman's kicking Vulture's ass.
Yeah, I think Keaton Batman, especially from the Flash, Keaton Batman, is kicking the ass of Vulture. Jason Todd versus Voorhees. You have been playing a lot of Friday, of course, before Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out, which I've seen you've been having some problems with that game recently.
Yeah, the XP thing. So me and Flores, which is a friend I play with, constantly, we play it every night pretty much because it's a good game. But I don't know if it's a screen that's fucking up or if it's an actual thing. So on the screen, and I posted this on Twitter for anybody that follows me, it says like you'll hit like a certain level, like, oh, you hit level 20. And then the moment you go to the next match, it kicks you back like 2 levels or like a level. And I'm like, what the hell? Am I losing XP? But if you pay attention to your main screen menu, you're still getting your points. So I think it's like a menu fuck up that they need to fix. And it's just saying that I have way more stuff than I do. But I've also had times where it says I get no XP and I just like had a badass game. And I'm like, what the hell? So yeah, there's definitely some bugs going on with it. As for Jason Todd versus Jason Voorhees, so here's the thing. According to the lore, at least in the game, I'm not a Jason expert, you can kill Jason. If we're just going by the game, you need to take his mom's sweater, but also be a female to distract him. And then only Tommy can kill Jason. So I don't think Jason Todd would be able to technically pull it off because he's 1, not female, and 2, not this guy Tommy. But if you take away the Tommy thing and it just needs to be a girl and Jason, he's going to still need somebody. So he's already at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, Jason's went to space and shit. So like,
I completely forgot.
You know what I mean? Like, he's been burnt alive, all this other kind of shit. I think Todd probably dies, to be honest. Because here's the thing. I don't think Jason Todd's smart enough to figure out how to kill Jason.
I don't think so either. I think he is just he is the dummy brute in the movie that's just like, oh, I can take him.
Yeah.
That's who Jason Todd is going to be.
He's Raphael from the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
It's what he is. I mean, I don't know. They always make him red. They're always red. The brutes are always red. But yeah, he's not. Nobody's ever been like, he's the smart one in the group. You know what I mean? He's always just the hothead. So I would go Jason Voorhees there. Lobo versus Deadpool. It's regeneration versus regeneration, isn't it?
Yeah. So
I think Lobo is more brutal, but I could see Deadpool just getting under his skin.
Yeah, this is the odd thing because they're both a little wacky.
Yeah.
They have definitely gotten out of hand a couple times in their own comics. But I think that Deadpool is definitely the more like, I guess, like you said, getting under somebody's skin.
Yeah.
I think to the point where Lobo would just say fuck it and he would kill himself.
Yeah. Probably. I do think people would probably come to the aid of Deadpool eventually. Because he does kind of have friends that don't want to admit that they're his friends.
Yeah.
But one-on-one, yeah, I don't know. I could see Lobo just getting annoyed and either walking away or killing himself if it had to be to the death. But anyways, going on from that one, we have Alexis Barrera. What trilogy would you rather have? Part 1, Clock King. Part 2, Polka Dot Man. Part 3, The Designer. Side villains, Ratcatcher, Man-Bat. Option B, Part 1, Killer Moth. Part 2, Maxi Zeus. Part 3, Hush. Side villains, Lockup and Croc.
You almost had me with B until you put Maxi Zeus in there.
Let's see. I mean, but like Ratcatcher isn't that great, in my opinion. I mean, I like the one James Gunn made up, but Ratcatcher, the comic book person, I don't give a fuck about Polka Dot Man either. Like James Gunn made both of those characters pretty interesting, and like other than that,
that's the thing though. Like Polka Dot Man and Suicide Squad, I think is gold. Like is actual like gold.
Yeah.
But if you put that same Polka Dot Man in a Batman movie, I don't see how it works. Like I honestly see that as like an entertaining, like, hey, this is the main antagonist of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder now that the things got reset, if Gunn will bring them back at some point, or if they can come back. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people really liked him. So, or you know what? You could still tell his story. Like he got smashed, right?
Yeah.
But he survived with one of his polka dots and he comes out of it or something like that. Some bullshit. I think Maxi Zeus works if he's like played by like John Cena or somebody.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean?
He's already Peacemaker.
Well, no, I mean, I'm assuming that this isn't in the DCU. I think it's just trilogy versus trilogy.
Yeah.
I think Maxi Zeus played by like a John Cena or just like a big hulking guy like that. That's like comedic. Because Maxi Zeus is, depending on which version you're getting of him, can be very silly.
You know, he got back in. He got back. He got into the acting game a little bit. His show unfortunately got canceled. Maxi Zeus played by The Big Show.
Wow. You wouldn't have the god body. You would just have like big height. So he would be a massive man. That would be interesting. But I think Killer Moth, Hush, Lockup, and Croc, those are just solid characters.
Those are really solid picks.
Yeah. I think Maxi Zeus is the comedic relief. So because like you have Maxi Zeus and maybe like Lockup is his henchman or Croc is his henchman or something like that. Since he would have to carry a movie. But you gotta think, you're really gonna do a movie about Polka Dot Man? You know what I mean? Like
that's what I'm saying. Like that's what I said. So I think I have to go with option B.
Yeah. Because Maxi Zeus is only the questionable one there. I have two questionable ones on the other. If you would have gave me Man-Bat in replace of Polka Dot Man, I'd probably go with that because I can see Man-Bat being the main movie. So, yeah, I don't know. So I'll go option B. We got Moncray. How much do you think having Air's Suicide Squad 2006 official soundtrack for every movie would have helped the DCU? I remember I was so hyped to see Suicide Squad because of the hit songs by 21 Pilot, Imagine Dragons, etc. I think it's a tool that is super underutilized to get audiences in seats. I would fucking hate it.
There is a double-edged sword with original soundtracks, especially in the capacity that is used for, of course, the 2006 Suicide Squad, and even that of James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy. I think one of the staples of the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy is the soundtrack. Everybody is always hyped when the soundtrack was released. That was like the big thing. But then it gets to the point where you're more excited about the soundtrack than you are about the movie. And I don't think that is a good idea at all.
The difference is, and this is what people need to realize just when you're making content in general. If you build a certain aspect into the movie, it makes it better. The soundtrack was a part of the movie. It was Quill's Walkman from his mom. Like, it was a huge part of the movie, and I think that's why people were excited about it. Suicide Squad got that, a soundtrack because they did a trailer with the popular song and fucking changed the whole fucking movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe Air will say differently, but I just don't think it's the same kind of effect. Although it did have a lot of hit songs, but I think it's also because the actors were in some of those videos.
Yeah.
And people were like, "Oh shit, the Joker's in," I don't know who that guy was, but like Rick Ross or some shit like that was in that video. That's crazy. I don't know. In everything, it's not good. It's like we had a discussion a few weeks ago. When you have like sex and nudity and stuff in movies, it's cool if it's part of the story and done right.
Yeah,
but
it
if
has
you're
to be
just
tasteful.
if you're just throwing boobs out there for no reason, or like how anime always has fan service, but it's the stupidest fan service. I tripped. Oh, your shirt fell off. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, come on, make it believable. And I think having a crazy soundtrack like this, eventually you'd run out of good songs. You know what I mean? Because I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, there's so much music, it would be infinite." No, it wouldn't. Because not every song goes with every scene. Like, we watched the Mario movie, and they fucking had AC/DC when he's running the fucking course.
Yeah, there was some that just didn't fit very well with that one.
And Mario has an iconic soundtrack.
And it takes you out. Like, yes, that was the big thing, is that Mario Kart and Mario, the actual series, both have really great soundtracks, and they just did not have any of that in the movie.
Yeah.
For the DCU or the DCU to make it pop a little bit more, look at Black Adam. It had freaking, what was it, Thunderstruck or Paint It Black? Which one was
Black?
It?
They might have had both, to be honest.
When it opens
with Paint It Black.
When Paint It Black came on, I had the biggest eye roll, and I hated the movie from then on. Like, it was so stupid in my mind. But at the same time, when you look at Shazam with I Need a Hero, which is quite possibly one of the cheapest songs that you can purchase for a movie, because it's everywhere on television and movies, that in Shazam played well because it played with a joke that Shazam made. That one was good. Yeah. So you have to pick and choose, but I don't think that relying on a soundtrack to make your movie better is a good idea.
Here's the thing. I think we are in the age now. Granted, it doesn't happen for everybody, but I feel like we're in the era now where a lot of directors grew up on AVMs or whatever, anime music videos. And you had all of the painted blacks and everything like that for those videos. And they look great for those videos because you're taking literally the best parts of shows and making an epic trailer for it. I mean, Anime Expo has like an AMV contest. So like they have people do their own shit, which I think is really cool. But yeah, Black Adam, you take all the best parts of that movie and put it to Paint It Black. I bet it looks great. As an intro, I wasn't that great. So I just don't think it has to fit. And I don't agree with the idea that if the DCU would have done that, because I do think they tried in some movies. I don't think it would be great, because I think BVS is better with its current music. I mean, it was Hans Zimmer. Like, everybody loves that soundtrack too. So I think you just need good music. Good.
And honestly, looking back at a lot of the movies, it wasn't until the more recent side of the DCU where they had the actual needle drops. When you look at BVS, you look at Man of Steel, you look at Wonder Woman, they don't have the needle drops nearly as much or at all. I think the first one to have like a big needle drop was Aquaman with that Pitbull song when they're coming out of the water. Like, I heard a lot of people hated that part.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I definitely don't agree with it, but I hear a lot of people talking shit about Wonder Woman soundtrack now. They're like, "Oh, I just can't stand this song anymore." I'm gonna say that happened because of Zack Snyder. Like 100%, his movie did that because it was horrible. for that. But everybody loved it the first time it came out, and even in her movie loved it.
Yeah.
And like, but if you watch the Snyder cut, oh my god, I fucking hate that song.
That song that plays when she enters,
Yeah,
with the tribal yelling and everything.
Fucking,
it happened too many times.
It happened every time she was on the screen. It was horrible. I don't know how he thought that was a good idea. Anyways, moving on to Nathan, who says, where do you think DC needs to focus on quality the most right now? TV, games, comics, animation. Well, I mean, they didn't even say movies. Interesting.
Yeah, they just said TV, games, comics, and animation. I think movies is implied.
No, I don't want to imply that here.
Okay.
Let's take it for what it is, because we're kind of going through a revamp from that anyway. So I think they are focusing on that. But some have said the animations haven't been great lately. So that could be something. Me personally, I'm going comics. Personally.
I'm partially going to agree. Okay. I'm going to go with Clay.
I mean, TV is pretty bad.
In the replies to this, Clay says they got their head out their ass with games. I'm getting impatient.
It's been one bad game. Like,
and here's the thing, Clay. I'm gonna go ahead and say that you are going to have to be patient, because we had said a couple weeks ago that in order for people to enjoy a game, it needs to be made properly, which means it's going to take some time, especially with this new generation type of gaming that they have been making. I mean, look at GTA 6. Like, Did you see Gamescom?
Yeah, dude, I'm getting really. What I need on these award shows now is I need a big dude to be there to choke slam these fuckers that get on the stages.
They need better security.
Yeah.
Like, for this to happen freaking 3 times in a row is insane.
They need a higher stage.
Oh yeah, I think so.
You know what I mean? Or the stages have to be like, when you went to school and the stairs were on the side. They need that, so you can have just guards there
forever
they have to go
get
all
around.
the way around. They need to stop this fancy. You know what? The best stage ever was when the Oscars had the orchestra in the pit. And and then the stage was very high. That's the perfect stage. And then put sharks in the pit. So if somebody tries to jump over, they die. But anyways, I think before Nightmares or the current event, comics are kind of boring.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't a lot going on. We've been complaining about Batman for over a year now.
Yeah.
Catwoman too. Nightwing is hit or miss. But I'd have to go comics, because I think it's time for a change, man. I think we need to do what we've been talking about for a while and go down the graphic novel route, or go down like, hey, you're getting 6 issues at a time, and really do like the Shonen Jump thing, man. Because I've read so many mangas in the last 2 weeks. I've caught up on Chainsaw Man. I've read 140 issues, so just like that.
Now, okay, so did you? Because I saw I don't know if it was the comics channel or the movies channel. You were wanting to get into Jujutsu Kaisen. Was that the show or the manga?
The show. I won't read the manga, because I'm pretty sure I've talked about my rule before. No. I like to watch something before I read it, because I am under the impression that they will always take things out in adaptations. So when I read the book or I read the thing, I'll be like, oh man, that was really good. And I can appreciate both. But if I read the book first and I watch the thing and they took out a part I really like, I'm like, man, fuck this show. Like, this is because what happened. I explained this on the stream one time. I was reading Hunger Games, the series. And it was right when the new movie was going to come out. I was like, I want to read the book first. And I had read half of it. I was halfway through it because it was going to come out in like a week or two. And a friend of mine was like, hey, I got exclusive passes to go watch it if you want to watch it. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm there. So I had read half of the book. I watched half of the first part of that movie. And I was like, this movie sucks. They have not included so many things from the book. Then I didn't know what happened, and I loved the movie. And I was like, oh my God, dude, it got so intense. This was crazy. This was an amazing movie. But I hadn't read what happened in the book. So I didn't know what was happening. So like I was able to be surprised, you know what I mean? So if I could be surprised by something, it's gonna be interesting. This will be my first test when they start doing Chainsaw Man, though, because the shit that's gonna happen in Chainsaw Man is gonna be nuts. So if they make it like if they flesh that out into like fight scenes and stuff, God, it's gonna be crazy.
I will say My Hero Academia has been pretty freaking accurate.
Yeah. Spy Family is like panel to panel.
Yeah.
Which is nuts. They just don't do the manga does include like bonus stories that are not in the show.
Yeah.
You know, I know we have some anime fans I watch. I'm 4 or 5 episodes into Jujutsu Kaisen and I'm like, when does it get good?
God damn.
Yeah. So here's the thing. The thing about Jujutsu Kaisen, I will say I want the main character's outfit. I love the school outfit with the red hood. It looks really cool, and I'm like, I would wear something like that. I think the fashion is really cool in Jujutsu Kaisen. But the main character's OP from like day one, and I fucking hate that.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, dude, have you seen it all at all?
I've read the first 4 chapters of Jujutsu Kaisen, and then I saw how many I had to read, and I was like, I'm putting this on the back burner.
Now. It's like 200 and something, and I'm just like, holy shit! I was like, I didn't know it's been out that long. But the anime, which I don't think it even looks as good as like a Demon Slayer. Like, because people are like, "Oh my god, the fights in anime, like it's so good." I haven't got to the good fight yet. I
think it's a little bit washed, and I think it's a little bit more old school when it comes to the animation, as far as like the colors. Whereas something like a Demon Slayer, they make those colors pop.
Yeah. I just haven't got to the really good part because they did introduce the Tsunade type of character, you know, the female character, and she's kind of like, oh yeah, I do shit my way. She was cool. She was the first thing that I was like, oh, you sparked my interest there. But the main character, like from day one, they just rush it. Like I'm like, he's modern day Naruto without the cool story so far. But I'm only 4 episodes in, so I'm not gonna hardcore judge it. But I'm just like, all right, when am I just like, this is fucking awesome? Because Demon Slayer, like that. Fucking Chainsaw Man, like that. I was like, oh, okay. I'm 4 episodes in, and I'm like, all right, when does it get like, oh my god, you know? But it's also a 24 episode season for season 1. I'm just like, oh god, you know? I'm like, damn. So we'll see. But I'm not. I will make a fair judgment after 10 episodes. If I'm still like after 10 episodes, I'm like, when does it get good? Then I'll be
probably.
I am somebody. I won't drop it. I'll probably finish the first season. Because I am somebody that likes to give at least a season to an anime because I think it does take time to build. I'm old school, you know, Dragon Ball Z. We went through so much fillers, like you just know you got to keep watching. But I'm not gonna watch everything if I don't like it after the first season. You know what I mean? Like but you know, maybe I just haven't got to the good part. Maybe I haven't just got to the good part. So I'm gonna understand that. But after 4 episodes, I'm still like, it's okay. Anyways, moving on from that, we got the last one from Clay. Which canceled DC game would have been the most influential / most well received? Lobo 1996, The Dark Knight 2007, Superman Blue Steel 2008, Gotham by Gaslight 2009, The Flash 2009. Gotham by Gaslight, hands down, I think.
I think Gotham by Gaslight would have been a really epic game. I have seen footage of the Flash video game that would have come out. I think that the concept is really fun, but I think it would have been still a little linear for that time. There was only so much you can do, and it felt and looked a lot like Superman. Was it Superman 64 for the Nintendo 64, which is like almost named like the worst video game in existence. It looked a lot like that. So I think in today's like Unreal Engine type of Flash video game would be really fun. But back then, nah.
But here's the thing I'll ask, Clay. How do you fight as the Flash?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I know where you're getting at.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be at super speed. like, and even when it comes to Superman, like, how do you fight as Superman against normal people? Like, are you just gonna blow their heads off with one punch and stuff like that?
Yeah.
You have to make it, like, of course, non-realistic because it's comic books, but you only can go so far until it gets really stupid, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the same thing goes for the Flash. You can only do so much. You fight at super speed. You can, like, how do you generate the whole idea of like vibrating through walls,
Yeah.
running on walls as well? Like, I think there's too much that the Flash can do to legitimately make a video game about him.
Yeah. Because are you gonna have to go into slow mode to fight everybody? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's cool for Max Payne and stuff like that, but you can also fight in regular speed.
Yeah.
Because, like, what are you gonna do? Just run through everybody and hit them? Like, that's the one thing I feel like they're like, how do we make that work, guys? Like,
Well, I think it would be more so like a Max Payne or Red Dead Redemption, where you're just like, oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna, like, make this person hit this person, and like
yeah.
you start having fun with it if you can. But if you want to just go all crazy and fight them all in real time, you can.
Yeah, you definitely couldn't do what they did in the Flash movie, because
Right.
he
Yeah.
knew that, like, if you move them far enough, they die.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, it'd be pretty unless they wanna do that to where, like, if you go and you grab somebody and you move them away and, like, you go back to normal speed, they throw up. They're like, like, every time. I just don't know how you make that work. I think you can make Superman work more than the Flash because you could just have like aliens invading and or like people with super powered weapons and stuff like that, and so you can probably hit them. You wouldn't assume it's full power, obviously, because it's Superman, but you could probably punch them and they could go flying, or maybe they're weighted down, or I don't know. I think it's more believable that you can make that happen. The Flash is a lot harder because I don't expect the Flash to really be hitting hard. He's doing more like quick in and out kind of things. He's destroying things real quickly. Like, you don't see him. So that would be a lot harder to do. But yeah, and then a Lobo in 1996, I mean, it's 1996. Like, there's only very much you can do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Batman Gotham by Gaslight. By 2009, we already had one of the Arkham games, right? So,
Yes.
So, I mean, give me that. Like, yeah, that would have been a hit. But I believe that is it for all of the questions we got, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to comics now, which we do have quite a few. But I will say, although we had a few, I only cared about like 3 of them. Oh, I went to the Shonen Jump app. Wrong app.
Muscle memory. God damn it.
Yeah, for real. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with a series that I've been sour on for the last 2 or 3 issues. I don't know what you thought about it.
I already know which one you're gonna pick. So,
Dark Knights of Steel. So, how did you feel about this book? And this is the ending. So, start off with, did Tom Taylor stick the landing?
I think he stuck the landing to a point.
Okay.
There was, in my mind, an unnecessary death in this issue.
Yeah.
But for the idea for it to be the Game of Thrones of DC, you kind of have to have those deaths for the shock and awe value, and then, of course, to move the story further. This one, I did like, with us very early on in this series, we brainstormed about the idea of the other kingdoms, the other realms, and all of that. They did put a tease to that here, talking about the water kingdom or the aqua kingdom, whatever it was called. The Lord of the Seas, the Sky Realm, the Frozen Isles. Like, that's cool. I want more of that.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the last fight was a little eye rolling because you're just like, oh, since all of these people are basically gods, including Bruce, they literally set them on fire to fight the White Martians. And I'm just like, this is kind of boring.
Yeah, my thing, which I called this like 2 or 3, issues ago. I hate that they're all friends. We see
Yeah.
that all the time. I mean, they're literally called the Super Friends in some of the comics that we've read before.
Yeah.
And just to spoil it really quickly, they formed the Justice League at the end.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you didn't need this right now. This could have been season 4.
Yeah. I think this was the biggest hiccup that Tom
Yeah.
Taylor did. Because I do agree with you. You can't pitch the Game of Thrones of DC and make everything hunky-dory at the very first season of your series. Like it doesn't excite me for what's to come, because you now have this team of gods that's gonna face down whatever,
Yeah.
And you have Lois and Harley Quinn and Constantine like making big plans for possible threats and whatnot. And then there's the secret of we learned it in the last issue, Amanda Waller, who is still wanting to be the ruler of this kingdom. She's the one that ends up killing Alfred in here, Martian Manhunter.
Yeah.
And she blames it on Deadshot, kills him, and fools Bruce. Like that, okay, you can have that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But she's going to have to face the Justice League already. Like if any of that conflict comes to pass within the next series.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't believe, like you can't convince me that she is going to be able to face this Justice League with ease.
Yeah.
They
did 8 seasons of Game of Thrones in one 12-issue series.
Yeah.
And it's really annoying. Because like I wanted like more spice, more drama. Like I want Lois Lane fucking Bruce Wayne. You know what I mean? Where we see here Superman's like, oh, he's all infatuated with her. Like I want to see some betrayal and stuff like that.
Like
but
I almost got excited. There's a moment where Wonder Woman is like, which one of you killed my mother?
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, like what's gonna happen here? And she's like, your name's gonna be remembered forever. You're gonna be a cautionary tale to my people. And then she cuts off the head, and it's super fast. And it's just like, that wasn't really satisfying.
Yeah. And then she goes to the main guy, and she's like, nobody's gonna remember you. And they die.
Yeah.
And like, I got sour on this because again, this series I was sour on issue 1, and then they brought me back, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, this series is actually really good. And then shapeshifters, look at that, they're all the Martians, and I was like, lame, because now everybody's gonna be on the good side. Like it would have been better if like the elves were on the side of the Martians. They're like, they helped us get here. You know what I mean?
Or even like if you wanted to keep it as the Martians, cool. Don't make that revelation until your 3rd series.
Yeah.
Or your 4th series. Then you're like, oh shit. And
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. We probably would have guessed it. I think one of our guesses was the White Martians, but don't show us right away, because then we're just like, oh, okay. Like, where do we go from here?
I think I can agree with that. I probably would have been more open to it had it been like 3 seasons later,
because you still have the tension of like, is Clark really evil, or is Laura L still evil? Is there's the sister, the daughter, still evil? Like you have no idea who is who and what is what and what is going on. Like if you still have that, there's still a whole lot of confusion. There is still a lot of fighting. There's still a lot of arguing within the L family. I think that pushes your story.
Yeah.
And then you have the revelation of the White Martians at the end of the 3rd season. And you're like, oh shit, it was them all along.
Yeah. And you'd also have the option to play around with like, was it really the Martians the whole time?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, or was Superman actually doing the bad things? You know what I mean? Because you could have done that, right? So that's like season 3 or season 4. They reveal the White Martians, but then, then you have Batman being like, the next season, you have him like, we found out that it was the White Martians, and then somebody's like, no, it wasn't. I saw this man on fire. And then you're just like, oh shit, it was Superman because he can survive fire.
Yeah.
That would have been such a better story. But here, hunky dory, in 12 issues, we formed the Justice League. I don't want to see good guys fight villains again. Like, that's the reason why I like this story, is because I'm like, yes, they're gonna fucking fight each other in medieval times. And now they're fucking all friends again. It's like lame. So yeah, I've been sour on this story for the last 3 issues. So I didn't expect to like it coming into this. And I kind of assumed all of this was going to happen. I saw CBR, which is in some drama right now.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. They were like, why Dark Knights of Steel needs a sequel immediately. And I didn't even bother reading the article. But, it is a very CBR article. And then, for anybody that doesn't know what's going on with CBR, we constantly talk about how they are the normie. They're the general audience view of comics and knowledge. But one of their editors or writers or somebody that was working for them had access to their Twitter account or something like that, and made a reveal that all of the editors and stuff are getting fired for AI. So pretty crazy stuff going on over there. But that was wild. But anyways, Dark Knights of Steel could have been so much better. But I mean, how many times have we read a series and said that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Moving on from that, let's go to the Brave and the Bold. Now, still no Tom King Joker story. It was supposed to be in this book, but it got pushed to even the next issue. So I think issue 5 is where we'll finally get the conclusion. Or maybe not even. I don't know. Is it supposed to be 4 issues or 3 issues?
I think it's 4, so it will be the conclusion.
Okay. Because this is 4 and so it wasn't in 4 and it wasn't in 5. So yeah, it'll be in 6 now. So yeah, the conclusion will be the next issue. This one had 2 Batman stories, one by the writers of Neo Gotham, which we'll be reviewing later, which is Collins and I always forget the other guy's name.
Jackson.
Collins and Jackson. So yeah, wait, hold on.
It's Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing. It's the very first story called Into the Abyss or Enter the Abyss.
Wow, I should have actually paid attention to this now that I think about it, because it ends with to be continued in Batman Beyond Neo Gotham #1.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I didn't read this story, y'all. Because here's the thing. It's not that I didn't find it interesting, is it has this very distinct Batman Gothic style of art. I like it, but I usually have to be in the mood to read a Batman Gothic style video or a comic book. It was like 2 a.m. when I was reading this, and I was like, I'm just not really feeling it. So I read like half and I skipped to the end story. And the end story is a different story by what's her name? I know it's a female writer that's writing on something.
Megan Fitzmartin.
Oh, okay, different. Maybe. Oh, I think it's the artist. That's probably different because I saw her pimping it out today. But great art in the last story. But anyways, so if you read the first story, what happens in the first story?
So the first story, Batman is dealing with some very supernatural things. We find out that there is an individual that was basically birthed before time existed. And she explains it to where, like, she says right here, I was born before time in a place that knew no light. I was not of your kind, and the realm that birthed me was both my mother and my father. I was the darkness, and it was me. I belonged to it, the dark garden. And this dark garden is or the beings within the dark garden. It's very kind of confusing. But people in Gotham are disappearing. And they are being absorbed by shadows. And this individual is following Batman and basically saying, hey, you're going to die if you keep going forward. Like, don't, I'm trying to save your life. And he's like, I can't. I need to save these people. One of those people is the brother of Blue Jay or Bluebird. I can't remember. We always forget the
I think Blue Jay is the better name.
Yes,
but it's Bluebird.
It's Colin Rowe. So her brother is captured by this shadow, and Batman goes to this well, and it basically starts to consume him, starts to take him. This, other realm being helps him out, and they safely get away. But it is, it's basically one of those like badass moments where like Batman's like, "Oh, you think that you think I'm scared of the dark? I was born in it," type of thing. The whole Bane thing.
Yeah.
He does have this moment where he is wearing a super translucent cape and cowl.
Yeah.
It looks pretty cool in one panel, but I think it's a little impractical. But he says that it's lined with phosphorant threading and kinetic charged UV micro lamps in his cape and cowl. So it's pretty intense, pretty crazy. But he is able to save the people from this realm.
Yeah.
And it says, like you said, to be continued, Batman Beyond Neo-Gothic #1.
Yeah.
We've already read Neo-Gothic #1.
Yeah.
So my thing is, we know that in Neo-Gothic, and we will be talking about issue number, is it 2 that we're talking about today?
Yeah.
We know that Terry has gone to the underground. The thing with this is that this dark garden or whatever is deep underground. So I think that's going to be a connection soon. Within the story.
Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. I did, like I said, I like this style of art, but it's just when people start talking and the like, oh yeah, the mythics and all that kind of stuff, I'm just like, I have to be in the right mood for it. It's kind of like reading a Greek mythology Wonder Woman book. I just have to be into it. And I don't know what it is lately. I don't know if manga's poisoning my brain, but hearing villains monologue or not, I mean, she wasn't technically a villain, but like somebody that's not the main character, I just don't fucking care. I don't care what you're thinking. Like, this isn't your book. It's Batman's book. I only want to hear what Batman's thinking about. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know why that is lately. I just haven't cared to, to read a bunch of monologues. And to be honest, I think inner thoughts are getting out of hand. There's a lot of them in Tom King's new book that we're going to talk about later. So much of it. It pushes the story forward, but there's a lot. Anyways, so let's jump to this final story at the end of the book, which is all in black and white. And it's like a cool little story. And it's about Batman. And unfortunately, I feel like this has happened a lot lately, where Batman sees his childhood self and he has to talk to them. I don't know why this is a big thing. Like, I just feel like this has happened a lot. It definitely just happened in Nightmares. But Batman is fighting Bane and Hush. They're together. There was a cool line of like, oh man, I'm fighting Bane, the man that broke my back, and Hush, the man that broke my mind. I thought that was kind of cool. And he's fighting, and he's like, this is going to be my last like fight. Like, it's over. This is where I die. And Batman's trying to fight everybody, all the goons and whatnot. He's trying to fight Bane and everybody. And he's dying. And there's this cool moment where it's showing like his heartbeat is starting to fade. Like, so he's going to die. And then he sees himself, his young self. And he's like, hey, like, I need help. My parents aren't moving. Like, I try to wake them up and they're not moving. And it's Batman back in Crime Alley because they're fighting in Crime Alley. So he's like, am I going to die where my parents did? Like, this area has caused me so much pain. And so he's talking to himself in what we could assume is the like in-between world. And he's seeing his parents and he's all like, they won't wake up. You got to help them. And he's like, look, it's not your fault. For the longest time, I thought this was my fault. I blame myself for not being able to do anything. I wasn't strong enough. And you constantly see his heartbeat fading. It's going from like 30 to 29 to, it's pretty cool throughout the panels. And then right when he's about to die and the candle is about to burn out from little Bruce, he's like, it's not your fault. And he hands him like a rose and whatnot. And he was like, but my parents' death, like, they sent me something. They sent me a new family. Yeah. And there's this panel of all of the Bat family standing around Batman. And they're like, you're done. Like, you're not going to beat us. Like, we fight as a team. You have hired goons. And so that's kind of like this moment where Batman gets back up and they're like, Batman, you all right? We thought you were dead. And everybody's all like, I didn't. Or like, oh, yeah, everybody's kind of talking shit, kind of what they do. And then he's like, he basically ends like, oh, yeah, this is my family. And it's the whole Bat family. So it's like a nice little story. But it was cool because, Batman was near death, went and talked to himself. And he's like, oh, this is what I'm fighting for. And like, I can't die here because I can't afford my family to die. You know what I mean? And so that was a cool little story. It wasn't anything like, oh my God, crazy. I thought there was some solid lines in it. I like the break my back, break my mind kind of thing. Because it puts more emphasis on Hush, to how good he was when he showed up. But yeah, it was a nice little story. I'm not too sure what you thought about it.
Yeah, I like this one. There was another story that I went ahead and read just because it did have to deal with a character that we have been seeing a lot of in the movies, was Harcourt.
Okay.
Apparently, she is now a super being individual thanks to Amanda Waller. There is a new thing called Lazarus Energy.
Oh, God.
That was put into the Lazarus Pit. And now Harcourt has come out of the Lazarus Pit after being murdered and has come back as a superpowered individual. So thought that was a little odd, but Amanda Waller is basically saying, hey, I own you now.
Yeah.
But before we go on our first mission, here's the address to the person who killed you. Okay, bye. And so like that's how the book ends. But yeah, I think that the stories in Brave and the Bold have been pretty okay. They haven't been amazing. I'm kind of waiting until we really read that one issue that's going to be like, holy crap, like this is a good story. Because even we've had our ups and downs with Tom King's Joker story.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't know. I feel like this year has been the year of like, let's make everything Lazarus. Because like I've seen Lazarus pills, I've seen Lazarus like fucking islands, and like, bro, whatever happened to Dionysium? Like, bring that back. Like that was the better version of Lazarus. But I think they like the element of like Lazarus makes you bad.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what they're going with. Either way, I thought the Batman Beyond it's had some good stories recently. The ones in between just seem really weird. Like the stories in between, like the front and back, because the back story is usually a Batman story too. But the ones in the middle are just kind of like, oh, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Moving on to Detective. Now, I love the art in Detective, but this was another one of those things. It was 2 a.m. I didn't care, but you said nothing happened in this book.
Yeah, not a whole lot happened in this book. It was basically Jim Gordon confronted that like big hulking monster Batman thing, who wasn't Bruce, by the way. It was some other individual that was actually a criminal, but he's a criminal in a sense that like he only did something bad for the sake of his family.
Okay.
And he wants to like clean up the city and all of this stuff because they there was an injustice towards him that he wanted to like kind of thrive out. Gordon tricked him, was able to defeat him, and these nightmare knights or whatever they're called informed Gordon that, okay, you were somebody who got a wish. This person was the guy that got a wish. This other woman that was vomiting diamonds had a wish, but there was one other person that didn't really ask for much except for knowledge. And he knew immediately, but his word, like he was like, I think I know who it is. I hope it's not. So I'm just going to go over there. And he goes to the clock tower, and Barbara Gordon is literally in half. Just like him, she is cracking. And what it basically comes down to is she gets pissed off at these nightmare nights of like them torturing both Gordon and her, just kind of like lingering and whatnot. And she found this this stopwatch or this clock, and it says she found it on the dark web, this interdimensional artifact that grants wishes and gives gifts. And this is implemented because at the end of the book, when we are finally in the real world, it is implied that somebody finds this clock in the actual real world, not just in the nightmare. But they tell Gordon, "Oh, I think it's time that we stop torturing you these nightmare nights. It's time to wake up." And he's very confused by this. He wakes up. He has a very hard time like realizing that it's real life. He is very tiptoeish around his house because he's afraid he's going to break. But it says it takes him several hours before he is finally like okay with being like the idea that he is no longer in this nightmare world.
Yeah.
Barbara doesn't answer her phone, and he's like, "Oh, well, it's probably because it's the middle of the night." And the last page is when we see some random individual find this interdimensional clock. So I guess it has to do with some sort of story that solid is it who was it that is writing the detective that we haven't been, is it
Ramvi?
Ram V? Yeah, I was about to say Saladin Ahmed. No, he's over at Marvel. No, but Ram V is apparently going to be doing something with this interdimensional clock, I'm guessing.
Which is crazy because he didn't write this story.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I was really enjoying the art. I love the design of the dark, like the Nightmare Nights. Like those look really cool. They look straight out of Silent Hill.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoy that. But yeah, I don't really, I don't know. It's the first issues of a lot of these nightmare stories hit really hard. The second stories haven't been so great.
Yeah.
Now moving on to Dawn of the Dawn of the DC, the Nightmare book. This one we finally get the ending, quote unquote. I guess. I mean, are there more books coming out?
I think there's one more Night Terrors book.
Oh yeah. It's called like Night Terrors Night something, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's called Night's End. We read what happened up to this book in Batman's book.
And
we finally got that the storytelling here. It's revealed why Insomnia is so upset. What did you think of the reveal? I felt like very easy.
It is very easy. It's very cliche in my mind. And I think that's what disappoints me a little bit, is that like this is I feel like recently in animation and live action and a lot of streaming shows, this is the motivation for almost every villain.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you could have done better. Like, I don't know which show or which movie you watched that had you inspired to write this story, but it just didn't hit as hard as I wanted it to be.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, what was the last good motivation for a villain that you've seen? Because a lot of times they want to. I've said this a million times on the podcast. I fucking hate. Oh, they're trying to make him relatable. Everybody knows, like, oh, if you lose a family member, you get angry. Like, you know,
I should typical. Not be relatable to a villain.
Yeah,
at all. Like, there's this idea, like, so Black Panther, Killmonger, the idea of being oppressed, racism, all of this.
Yeah,
you can agree to an extent, but you still know, under all circumstances, what he is doing is bad.
Yes.
But the way that a lot of these writers are trying to write villains is like, oh, he's not bad, he's just misunderstood.
Yeah.
No, like that bullshit needs to stop.
Yeah.
Like because there's this idea that like, oh, there aren't really any true bad guys. The only true evil is like evil itself. Yeah. And it's like, no, like we need to get back to there being pure evil individuals.
Yeah. Because like I also think it's in society, we do understand that a lot of people are troubled by mental health issues, and that, you know, some people are a lot worse than others. I have bad panic attacks, but I've met people that have like crippling anxiety to where they can't even leave their house. And or if they do, it has to be in very small things. And I'm like, oh, I'm not that bad, even though mine feel like I'm gonna die. I can only imagine being in that state 24 hours, which I did for a whole year. But like somebody's been doing that their whole life, and it's just like, holy shit. And there are just some people, there's reason why we have mental institutions, right? There are just some people that cannot be controlled, that, cannot just grasp what's going on, or we can't, like, we as a society don't know how to handle them, right? And science just isn't there. I saw something recently. I saw a video. I don't know what it was, just a little bit off topic, about like there was this really smart woman that was like, going to college and something, and one day she just kind of like snapped and became like super crazy. And for like 20 years, they couldn't figure out what was going on with her. They thought she was just like screw loose in the head one day. And it turns out she had like an imbalance or something in her blood or in her body in some way. And a guy that met her when he was like 20 years old and then went on to become like a super high guy in, psychology world, heard about her story again 20 years later. And he's like, she's still there. And he brought his whole team over there to study her, and they found out what was wrong with her. And now she can talk. Like for 20 years, she was just like crazy cuckoo. And then they were like, oh, it's an imbalance and this and that. And we give her these, pills or whatever. And now she talks like she's normal. And she's like, what happened? And it's like, she doesn't remember. It was a fucking crazy ass fucking story.
Insane.
So like they said it was such a big discovery that it could be like, if we can just figure out what's going on in somebody's brain to correct it, we might be able to fix a lot of mental illness, which is nuts. Yeah. So, that was wild. But that's kind of those things, right? Like a lot of, and maybe that's where the misunderstood comes from. But it's like, that was 20 years. You're gonna just say somebody's misunderstood for 20 years and let them do their evil, crazy stuff, or hurting people. Like, no, and there's a reason for it. But I think I cheer for a good guy so much more when I know there's just a bad guy there, right? Like everybody's met an asshole that's like, I'm better than you. And like, like, why do you think influencer boxing is so popular right now? Everybody wants to see Logan Paul and Jake Paul get knocked the fuck out because they're super douchebags. Yeah. And they don't, unfortunately, and they make millions of dollars off of people that buy hoping that they're going to get knocked out. But that's kind of the thing is, I just sometimes I want to see a bad guy get punched in the face. That's all I want. I don't want to relate to them and be like, oh man. And then that's kind of why I get annoying when a lot of villains become superheroes or anti-heroes. I'm just like, oh, lame. I was like, I want them to be bad guys. So yeah, I don't know. I thought this one was kind of lame. It was a guy that really loved the Justice League. He was like fans of the Justice League. And then his family gets crushed in a building and the Justice League weren't there to save him. And that's why he can't sleep anymore because of the injustice that was done to him. And I was just like, okay, I guess. Yeah, I kind of saw that.
It's a little boring.
Yeah. But how would you make it better? That's what I was kind of thinking about,
I don't know. Like this whole idea of like him having this power to like this realm of nightmares is already crazy enough. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I could connect a backstory to it. Yeah. Like I could see like the injustice of Arkham. Like I think that would have been a little bit more. Again, stereotypical for the Arkham or Gotham villain is that there's an injustice with the society that we already know is corrupt and fucked up already. Mm-hmm. But like just to see that a patient that had a mental illness was taken care of badly and caused that, I think that is a little bit more believable than like, oh, his family got killed and now he wants revenge. Like,
yeah, like if you were to showcase how he's treated so poorly in Arkham, and then he's like, y'all come in here with your grants and everything, and yada,
because yada. there was a little bit like the nightmares or the dreams or the memories that Deadman was seeing was kind of hinting at that kind of thing. Like you saw his days at Arkham Tower, you saw him in that like AA meeting or whatever. Like you saw that there was something clearly wrong with him, but to just get this new revelation that, oh, it was just his parents got killed in a horrible accident. Yeah. It's like, okay, like, and don't get me wrong, that's terrible. Like it happens to a lot of people. But that's another thing. It's an everyday occurrence type thing.
Yeah.
And like for him to choose that to become like this like earth-shattering dimensional supervillain, like,
yeah,
that's a little much.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to build like a good, because here's the thing too. I think a lot of people get kind of upset when you go the crazy route of like, oh, he loves to see people get killed. That's what he's into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People are like, oh, that's so lame, or that's so grotesque, or whatever. You know what I mean? Yada yada. I'm like, he's a fucking villain. Like, yeah. And so like there's this weird thing where I think people want to have that, they want to see that the villain's a human that has lost their way instead of being just like somebody that likes fucked up shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I probably would have went more of that route. I think the patient thing is really cool because we do know, because we've always said we like the episode of Lockup, right? How the Arkham inmates are like, he's a terrible guard, like he does so many bad things to us. You know what I mean? He's like, oh, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? So I kind of like that. That'd be a cool thing. Or like we've always wanted the perspective of the villains, like what they see Batman as would be kind of cool. But I don't know. So I could definitely buy that story because I've wanted that story. But like you could have done something really crazy to where the reason why he hates the Justice League is because he's always wanted to see the aftermath, or he's always wanted to see the chaos, and they always stop it. Like he's like, I wanted that building to crash. I wanted all those people to die, and they saved it. They stopped it. And like that would be more interesting because it's fucked up and sadistic. But I think some people would be like, oh, that's too easy. Easier than his family dying and he's an evil man now? Like, I don't know. Like, at least he would be evil. Like, that's a reason. And he creates the nightmares to finally get like what he's never been able to have. You know what I mean? That enjoyment of chaos, which would be a little bit more interesting in my eyes. But some people might be like, that's easy. Like, okay, then everything's easy at this point. I just don't know. I don't know. Like, but here's the thing is, we didn't say like Joker was fucked up in Smile, right? Or like Joker Harley, like that he was just sadistic, crazy. And we were like, damn, that's awesome. So like sometimes easy, like our villainous is just good. Like I want to see a good guy beat that bad guy. That's it. I think people overthink it too much and try to make everybody relatable. So yeah, we do end up seeing that. We see that everybody kind of comes out of their nightmares at the end of this book after the reveal, and the nightmares have bled into reality because that's what Insomnia wanted, and he has the Nightmare Stone now, and he's been able to bring all his nightmares to reality. So the next issue will be, I'm assuming, the Justice League and everybody beating up all of these nightmares. So but yeah. And then there was like some new Nightmare Knights, essentially. So like the Superman version, the Wonder Woman version, and the Batman version are all in reality now. So they'll have to fight their own nightmares. Which is Batman going to be able to turn into his crazy suits? You know what I mean? I hope that doesn't happen to where like, oh, if this is a real world, we can do what we did in the dreams. You know what I mean? Like
I'm lucid living.
Yeah. I hope that doesn't happen. Let's go ahead and do Penguin next, and we'll end with Gotham or Neo.
Neo Gotham.
Yeah.
Well, did we talk about? Did you read Adventures Continues?
Oh yeah. I forgot about that book. Yeah, I read it. Where did I? Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah, no, this was actually really good. I mean, but when is it not? It's Paul Dini.
Wow. Okay, I thought you were going to be a little upset by the ending.
With hold on, I don't remember
the tease as of what's to come.
Oh, with the new shit, it's a little silly. Are you just talking about like
like the literal ending, the spoilers? Wait, hold on.
Because it's the Court of Owls.
I'm thinking of the other book. Never mind.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So, I was gonna say, I was like, what? I was like,
we've already seen the Court of Owls in this book.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, the ending's a little silly, but it's an animated series.
But I did like this one.
Yeah.
This included some, of course, world building to a world that we already know.
Mhm.
We see Man Bat again. We see his wife. I like the inclusion of them, but I do like the very smart idea of Batman going to Poison Ivy with this grain and being like, "Hey, like, I need you to study this. Like,
Yeah.
you're the botanist. You know how these things work." Um, I did like that.
Mhm.
Um, how did you feel about the Catwoman portion of this story? Like,
This is how I would write Catwoman, I think, most of the time. I love that she's just always flirty with Batman, even when she almost died. I
mhm.
love that Robin was like, "I'm right here. Like, get a fucking room." Like, you know what I mean?
No, there's a scene where she's like, all I'm thinking of is a hot shower. Are you
Yeah.
thinking of the same thing, Bruce?
Yeah.
And Tim's like, I am literally right
Yeah.
here.
So I love because like I think that's how Batman and Selina kind of just like have good moments in life because they're always in trouble. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so they find a time to do that. And I think that's probably how relationships are too, you know? Like at
Yeah.
least back in my old relationships, like even when times were bad, like you're having a bad day, like you have those little things that only your partner knows about that you're like, okay, you know, things are going to be fine.
Yeah.
And so like I like to see that between them. I also really like that they did modernize her design. I think short hair Selena Kyle is best Selena Kyle.
I did find it a little weird when you see the flashback of her in the actual Catwoman costume.
Yeah.
She still has the like very like grayish green like lower face.
Yeah. Yeah, that is
That
weird.
doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, that's really annoying. Maybe it's just some animated like the animated series could get away with a lot.
Yeah.
So it could be like something that hides her face, you know, that's why it changes colors or something like that. I mean, we just read a book that had luminescent Batman threading. So
Yeah.
like she probably has something that changes her skin color built into her cowl. Like, you know what I mean? But the good thing about the animated series is since it is kind of campy at times, that's you let it slide more, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, we find out that Selena and Man-Bat and other people have been taken by the Court of Owls because they're nuisances to the Court of Owls.
Mhm.
And that's why they're captured. Man-Bat was actually the reason she was able to escape because she was gone from Gotham for a long time. There's like this thing where she's like scratching into the days, like how many days have been gone. Um, so we know she's been gone for a while. Man-Bat went crazy, broke her out of her cell, and she was able to escape and got chased down. That's when Batman, you know, we had that line that you mentioned about the hot showers. Him and Robin take off, or at least he takes off. Or no, Robin's there, but they don't show him in this panel. He goes and meets what's her name? Francine, that is the wife to Man-Bat.
Mhm.
And she's all like, I haven't seen him in a week. You know what? You can go ahead and tell him that I'm gone or whatever. Like he can be with you, he can be with the city. I'm out. And so she's leaving. They've always had a troubled relationship. So like this isn't anything new. And he's like, oh yeah, here are the pills that he takes now. Cause like he can transform with pills now, I guess. And he's like, all right. And so I hope that doesn't mean that everybody's gonna turn into man bats. You know what I mean? Because that could be an animated series type of thing. Because I love the animated series, but they did have some goofy episodes where Selena was a cat at one time. She got transformed into a cat,
Mhm.
and like there's been different things like that. So it's very possible. We do have Batman calling Gordon and talking about the Court of Owls, and he's like, "I thought that died with the mayor." They're like, "Apparently not. Did he even die?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like there's that questioning. Then Raish comes back and he's like, "Hey, I'm probably gonna die sometime soon. So are you gonna take over this demon head role? You know, so I could teach you everything. Like you gotta, you know, you can test your shit all you want, but I'm trying to be honest with you." That's where we see Talia's there. She shows up when, you know, Batman is talking to Ivy, like you mentioned, and she's like, "Yo, all this shit is good. This is the only plant I can't talk to, though." So Batman's like, "Figure it out. Like, I trust you.
Well, and he says please, and Poison
Yeah.
Ivy's like, wow, Batman says please. The miracles really do exist.
Yeah.
But I like the somewhat tension between Talia and Catwoman in here also.
Yeah. I love the way Talia's drawn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love the hair covering her face and everything. She's like really, really well. But yeah, so Batman, Robin, they gave Selena a tracker to like, yo, call us if you need us. She presses the button. She's like, I was expecting you and maybe the kid, but not your fan club. And her and Talia, it's like their first meeting, but they know of each other. Like their reputations precede them. And she's like, yeah, you're Talia. You have this diamond, this ruby, this stuff. And she's like, you're mistaken. Those are hidden in the Alps where we have our safe. And she's like, they were. And so like, that's kind of cool. And then, yeah. And then, so it looks like this is going to be the new gang that is going to go after the Court of Owls. And Batman does kind of have a cheesy line, but he gets away with these in this series where they're like, oh, that big bird. I think that's the one that controls them. He's like, well, they're about to get new management.
They're going to have a change in management.
I'm just like, damn. So Batman and everybody goes to fight the Court of Owls. And the Court of Owls are down there and they're like, yo, this is done. And they're like, no. Like, we've changed since the last time you fought us. And these weird demon type monster dogs come out of the sewers. And it looks like Batman and everybody's going to have to fight them to survive. And it says, next, the epic conclusion. That was the only silly part, really. Like, Court of Owls got mutant dogs. I could believe it.
I think they're rats.
Oh, you think
because
so?
of the sewers and everything? I think they might be like giant mutant rats.
Yeah, you know what? I'd believe you. I thought they were just like, Resident Evil dogs.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, rats makes a lot of sense since they're in the sewers. But yeah, no, that was fun. I mean, I love reading the animated series because it just reminds me of the show. I wish it was the older style. They went with the more modern not Tim Burton. What's his face? The
Bruce
creator.
Timm.
Bruce Timm. There you go. They went with the newer style, which is not my favorite, but it still looks great drawn. The cover for this was also really cool, where they're fighting on top of the Batmobile, which is really weird though, because Batman's like looking at himself fighting, and everybody else is fighting on it. But it was a cool little cover. But yeah, so moving on from that, that's always hot stuff. Let's go to the. I mean, which story do you think better, Neo Gotham or Tom King's?
Well, you said you wanted to talk Neo Gotham last.
Yeah, but you also mentioned the ending, and I'm assuming that's the book you're talking about.
Yeah, I think you don't like the ending of that one. Is it true? Like, do you not like the ending of that one?
Didn't care.
Okay.
Like I didn't hate it or love it. I thought it was interesting though because it's Batman Beyond.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that last. But moving on to Tom King's Penguin. Now, for anybody that doesn't know this is an ongoing. It's not a mini series. It's not a maxi series. It is ongoing, much like Wonder Woman. So Tom King has joined the ongoing series rank for the first time in a long time. And I'm curious if he's done with maxis for a while, which will be because that's 2 books that are ongoing, which would be kind of crazy for him. But Tom King also writes an issue a week for multiple series. So I don't know. He has a crazy schedule, but the art in this book is amazing. I thought the art was great. I believe
I love the art in this book.
Oh wow. I thought this was actually the dude that did Rorschach, but it's not. So Della Toro is or Tori? Della Toro. I don't know. I always mistake my people's names. I don't know. I'm just assuming there. But anyways, in this one, it starts off with Batman and Penguin in a bat boat, and they're sinking. Batman is talking about how he's like, all of his safeguards are failing. The boat is supposed to float up. He's supposed to be able to use all of these different things, but they're taking on water. And he's like, everything I need to do, I need to be able to get out of this, but everything I try is failing. And I can't die here. Like, I can't die next to him. And it's like Penguin's just kind of just chilling there, and he's like dying. And Bruce is all, I'm thinking about Selena. I'm thinking about the family, Alfred, and this can't be where it ends. And he's like, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but because like it takes place in 2 different eras. Like it's a year apart from each other. And there's another part where he's like, I can't die unless I ask Penguin this question. And so that's kind of how the book ends. But moving on from that, so there's that situation where they're about to die. Penguin and Batman sinking in a boat. And then it says 1 year earlier in Metropolis. And this is where we assume Zdarsky's Penguin has been, but we don't know officially because I don't know if Selina said he was in Metropolis.
I would have to go back and look at the first backup.
Yeah.
Because I have an inkling that she does mention something.
I might actually have it. Let me see. I thought I downloaded it. You know what? I might have downloaded it and then realized it was something I already did and deleted it because we read it before.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no. I think I did. So, yeah, I don't have it. But anyways, so yeah. Maybe he was in Metropolis and I just don't remember it from that book. But he's getting a suit made by a tailor. And a tailor kind of makes an insult about his weight.
An insult that is meant to be a compliment. So what he says is, he says, you've lost a few more pounds since our last visit. Good for you, huh? You look real fit, bet it took a lot of work.
Yeah.
And so it's a compliment, but an insult because it's like, oh, that must have been really hard for you, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I could see why he's worried because this dude is worried for his life after this.
Yeah, because it's also like when you make it's because it is a compliment, right? When you're like, oh, you've lost weight, but it's also kind of saying like you were fat. Like, I knew you were a little big because I noticed you lost weight. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, so you're insulting and complimenting at the same time almost. But either way, he is freaking out. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Your suit is free. It's on the house. Express shipping. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's trying to get everything good. And Penguin is just like, it's all good. We all make mistakes. I'll see you, when it's ready. And obviously the guy's a nervous wreck. Then there's so much dialogue. Like, I love King, think he's great, but there was a lot of dialogue here.
And this is a lot of monologuing from, we assume, is Batman. He is monologuing this person.
I thought it was the agent the whole time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I knew she was in this book. And what she was talking about, she was like, we have an agent scheduled or we have somebody watching. Batman usually does the watching himself.
True.
So
okay, that would make a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
To connect everything here. So there is a lot of monologuing here. Basically just observing what Penguin is doing, getting out of the tailor, going to get the Metropolis newspaper, grabbing some food, going to the park, yada yada yada. But then he has a run-in with some random individual who is actually an undercover cop.
Yeah.
And this cop is basically trying to just poke at Penguin, trying to see if there's any kind of reaction, cursing at him a whole lot, calling him ugly, saying he has a funny looking nose and all of this stuff. And Penguin's like, I have been said to have a funny looking nose. It makes me look a little weird, but it's all right. It's all right. Very chill for the Penguin. We see that he is, quote unquote, turn a new leaf, basically. But it doesn't get him riled up at all. So the guy just leaves, and we see that Penguin has.
They do make sure to say that he pissed himself. Because the thing is that Penguin...
Oh, yeah, the undercover cop. Yeah.
And he was like, Penguin doesn't notice that, and he just walks off. Because and she even mentions that they have people on standby in case something does go down, but he'll more than likely die. Just to insinuate how dangerous the Penguin is, because a lot of people don't ever think the Penguin is that dangerous. Usually like, oh, Penguin has other people do that. And I think I've said that before too, but I've also seen Penguin do some fucked up shit. So like, it'd be very, very interesting, but continue. You were saying he was getting to his house and whatnot.
Yeah, he's getting to his house and he has a new squeeze. We find out that this is his fiance. Her name is Rita, I think.
Yeah, it's Rita.
and he is making dinner for her. It's gonna take a while, and she's like, "Oh, I know how to, pass the time." And the next thing you know, they're both in bed, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, that food is definitely burnt by now. We'll figure something else out for dinner." And they're talking about how like she really misses smoking, and he's like, "Oh, you shouldn't miss that. That stuff will kill you." Like it's a completely different side of Penguin we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole point of what we're seeing here. But we get to his place of work, the flower shop that we saw in that Catwoman backup story. And we see this individual come in, and this is like your grade A douchebag.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, my wife is mad at me for some stupid reason. I have no idea what for. So I guess I should get her flowers. But hey, find me something that looks expensive that really isn't. Because let's just, Penguin says, well, let's just see what the rule of thumb is or something like that. And he says, well, as a rule of thumb, you usually get what one pays for. And the dude's like, did you actually know that the rule of thumb is actually comes from this idea that back when it was okay to beat the shit out of women, I miss those days, right? Ha ha
Yeah.
ha.
He's a super douchebag.
He's a super douchebag. And basically he's explaining how like, oh, well, back in the day you could grab a stick that was no thinner or no thicker than your thumb, the rule of thumb, to beat your wife with. And Penguin has this small little bird that ends up biting this individual. He's like, what the fuck? Like, this hurt. Like, F you, I'm leaving. Like, I'm not coming back here. And Penguin reassures this bird, and two individuals walk into the shop.
Yeah. It's actually just one. The guy's leaving, and she's
the guy's leaving.
That's why it looks like
and
two.
and this individual is coming into the shop. Penguin is saying, this penguin, he is talking to the bird and saying like, oh, we'll find a place for you. Saying like, oh, he probably just took this bird in. He's nursing it, and eventually it'll get better and fly away. So again, seeing this side of Penguin that is very nurturing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the bird fucking explodes from a fucking bullet.
Yeah.
And agent that we know as Agent Nuri Espinosa killed the freaking bird, like right off the bat. We know this agent before because she is the agent from the Killing Time, the series that Tom King had written prior. And we even have a reference to that when she takes him in for booking, and it says this is a process that takes a couple weeks that he is out of his house. We see Amanda Waller is there. Amanda Waller is behind something here. And that this Agent Espinosa is working for her. Which I thought was a little suspicious here.
Well, she does work for the. I mean, I guess Amanda Waller probably controls all the government agencies. I always thought she was just like secret ops, but Espinosa, I believe, is the FBI. So it seems like Waller controls that. Or maybe she only comes in on big profile cases like this because we learn later that she wants Penguin to work with her to take back his empire, and they will be controlling everything.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely Waller's MO of like, hey, I need to control a bigger portion of whatever. It's odd that they're choosing Penguin. I don't know why I mean, I guess the idea is, okay, your kids are small fry compared to you. You need to go back. You need to control things, and we can control you. But there's a conversation between Agent Espinosa and Penguin, and I thought this was kind of like very humorous.
Before we jump onto that, I do want to point out one thing between Waller and Espinosa. She was like, "Are you gonna? I got him. Like, are you gonna give me praise?
Oh, like a promotion or something?"
Yeah. And she's all like, "When the bat's on that chair and we got that, then I'll give you a pat on the head. Until then, do your fucking job." And I love this is when Espinosa salutes, and she was like, "May the wall never fall." And I'm like, "Damn, that is a good line." Like,
oh man, that
but
was
like,
good.
it looks like Amanda hates that fucking line because in the panel next to her, she's like, "I'm nice," and like, yeah, I was just like, "God damn, that is a good tagline for her." But yeah, you were talking about the conversation between
The
Penguin and
conversation
Espinosa.
between Espinosa and Penguin, she references Penguin as like, "Oh, you're a smart one," and he's like, "No, no, no, that's the Riddler. Riddler's the
Yeah.
smart one." Uh, and he says, uh, "Harvey's just one. Pamela's the passionate one.
He's the just one. I read
Oh,
that
the
wrong
just one.
too.
Yeah,
I was just like, just one. I was like, he's two though. Like,
the
yeah.
the just one. Pamela's the passionate one. Victor's the cold one. Jonathan's the scared one. Roz is the militant one, and Joker is obviously the crazy one." And she's like, "Huh, that's fascinating. Fascinating. Well, who are you?" And she's like, "Well, didn't anybody tell you? I'm the fat one." And he does the quack quack ha ha,
Yeah.
the penguin laugh.
Yeah.
And I thought that was actually really funny. I was like, that is very subtle comedic gold there.
Mhm.
But they have this conversation on like why they took him in, like what they want him to do, and all like they're basically just saying all of their game plan to him.
Mhm.
And she says, like, "You're a terrorist. You are big and bad. So you wouldn't want anything to happen to your fiance, right? Like they
Mhm.
are threatening his new way of living." Because
Yeah.
I genuinely think from the way Tom King wrote it, I don't know what Howard or Chip was doing.
Mhm.
The way King has portrayed Penguin here, he's had a new life. Like
Yeah.
he's found something that he could possibly live and be happy with.
Mhm.
And they're threatening to take that away from him. Um, so they basically say, you know, you just do our bidding and we're all good.
Yeah.
And this, again, lots of dialogue,
Yeah.
lots of inner monologue. But uh, at the very end of this conversation with Espinosa and Penguin, Penguin had mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, "Oh, you're the one that cusses a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like you were in that incident where Riddler shot your face."
Mhm.
And she's like, "Oh, I don't do that anymore." But
Mhm.
by the end of this long conversation with Penguin, he walks out and she's like covering her face and she's like stuttering something, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden she just yells out, "Fuck!"
Yeah.
Like,
How did you read this? So I read this as it is an exciting fuck. Like she was like,
yes.
I have him.
Yeah,
And that's why. Okay.
that's how I saw it. Like she
Okay.
is like, "Yes, like I did it. This is gonna get me oh so much closer to, getting that pat on the head from Waller."
Mhm.
I think this is a new level to her like achievements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she says like he just walks out. He doesn't ask like when we'll contact him. He just walks out because he already knows what's gonna happen. He's like, and he says, "I'm late to go pick up my suit." So call back to the beginning of the book. He goes and he's talking to the guy. The guy's like, "Oh, Mr. Penguin, you're here, yada yada." And Penguin just knocks the shit out of him with his umbrella and starts beating the shit out of him. And this is in laced in between the final page where Batman is drowning, like they're about to drown. Him and Penguin are sinking in the bat boat. The guy's dead on the ground. We assume he's dead unless he's just bleeding out of his face. And then there is Penguin in this one panel putting his thumb up to his umbrella to see that it's the same
The
with,
rule of thumb.
yeah, the rule of thumb. This is something Tom King does very well.
Yeah.
He will take references and stuff and make stories out of them, which is something I don't see other writers do. And I think that's what makes him unique.
Mhm.
And he does other elements that some people won't like, but there's always, majority of the time, there's a reason why Tom King is doing something. And I think I really like that about storytelling instead of just being like, here's a cool thing and it never amounts to something, which can be kind of annoying for a lot of writers. But Batman does say that, like, he says this, I've always hoped my last thoughts would be for my family, my boys, and Selena. But as we're going down, all that comes to me is a question that I'll never get an answer to. He's just the Penguin. How the hell does he do this? And so I think this is going to be a good story for Tom King to do, because Tom King loves to tell the stories that are untold. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's like, the Penguin feels like the least threatening out of all of the villains, right? But he has like the most power, it feels like. He's the one that always survives. In all of the other stories where people have like, it's 20 years later. And we saw it in Catwoman, right? Catwoman Lonely City. He was still there. And he was like, I'm clean now. I work for the government. Or like, I do real shit. Like, we're all clean now here. We don't do any bad stuff. And he was running like an actual operation or whatever. It's because everybody's always seen Penguin as like the business guy. But how does he keep control of it? And I think Tom King is going to tell that story of how Penguin is able to stay in control all of this for this whole long time, So I'm intrigued. It was very wordy, but I'm going to assume we're not going to have to hear about hear Espinosa talk that much for all of the series. I think this was just a buildup to kind of explain a lot of things. So I'm hoping it's not as wordy going forward. And we're going to hear more about Penguin and conversations and stuff like that. But overall,
again,
I enjoyed it.
I will say this.
Mm-hmm.
The last book that was featured as a villain, titles, Joker, was a book about Gordon.
Yes.
This book had Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is the only way this book is going to sell. Again, there are some diehard Tom King fans, and there's some diehard hating Tom King fans.
Yeah.
So the sales on this book are going to be up and down. There's going to be people who read this book, so they're going to be up, and there's going to be people who love this book that are going to get it even further. But what I'm saying is, as long as Tom King focuses on the Penguin, and keeps it about the Penguin, that's what's going to make me happy. Because I hate that when they title a book something and then not feature that character or that event or that thing until like the last issue or whatever. It's why the Joker book didn't do well. It was a Gordon story. You should have just had a Gordon miniseries if that's really what you needed. With this, I think that King has made it more and more intriguing on the idea of like, okay, this is going to be a return. Like, this is like, I guess, like, I've never seen this show, but I could see King making this like a Sopranos type deal.
What the Penguin show is supposed to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. And also, I didn't even think of that. Very timely for eventually when that show is going to be coming out. So
yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about King right now, right, is he's also on James Gunn's writing team. They're not doing anything right now, but I want to know if James Gunn kind of threw this out there when he put him on the team. He's like, so gonna need you to write some things so we can kind of sell books while we also do the movies. So I need you to give me some backstory on Penguin, and I need you to make a better Wonder Woman. And I wonder if that's kind of like, kind of just like what he's doing out there, because he has that power. Because which if I'm Tom King and I've seen how James Gunn can make people buy comic books, I'm like, yeah, dude, I'll do that for sure. Like, you want me to write Wonder Woman? And then you're going to tweet it out and be like, oh yeah, this Wonder Woman is going to be the story we're following. I'd be down. Because you got to remember, too, that if James Gunn is going to do the MCU version, eventually we're not going to have Wonder Woman. We're not going to have, Superman. We're not going to have Batman. The new generation could be Damian, John, and Trinity, which Tom King just created Trinity. So maybe they're thinking that far in advance. I think this would all just be like,
speculation and
speculation, pie in the sky type of stuff. But I would prefer somebody thinking that far ahead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would be kind of cool. I don't think that's happening, but it is interesting to think about when he is on both teams. So either way, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this more than Joker, or than, that whatever the first, I don't even know what the hell he calls that story. The Brave and the Bold story. I don't even know what it's called.
Yeah, I don't know what the title of the story is either.
I enjoy it more than that, because this one is intriguing, and the other one just seems like it was too high expectations. Like he set it up too much. Like, this is the first time they meet, and I'm like, it's not good enough for me. But this one I enjoyed. But anyways, let's move on to the final book of the week, and it is the Batman Beyond Neo Gothic. This we read previously, and it was about we found out that there's the old Gotham City is under the new Gotham City, which I really enjoyed because I always questioned how the hell did Gotham change so much in, a short amount of time. And it's because they built on top of the old Gotham, which I think is really cool. And for anybody that thinks like that's kind of dumb, I'm pretty sure there's something like Venice is like, there's like a whole city under Venice because it's like all underwater, right? Water keeps rising. Yeah. So they have to keep building, which I think is fucking insane. So same kind of concept, you know what I mean? But yeah, we ended the last one with Croc. They found Croc, like this monstrous Croc. And so Batman, Terry is fighting this like almost kaiju size.
Yeah, he's
Croc.
huge.
Yeah. So it's really cool. Art is amazing. He's like, Croc, the old guy, the first guy said you could be reasoned with, like, just Waylon, like, talk to me. Waylon's like, eat you, food, hungry, and so like he just wants to eat him. And he says he hasn't eaten in months. And I wonder if Batman was feeding him, and maybe since he's dead, he hasn't been getting his
that's
food.
The implication. Kind of moving ahead here, the assumption that Terry comes across is that Bruce made this underground.
Mm-hmm.
Now, knowing this story and what I told you about the story that came out in Brave and the Bold, what if Waylon and whatever else is down here is Batman's way of keeping this dark garden at bay?
I think it's pretty cool. It's definitely a better story than like death metal.
Like,
you know what I mean?
It's a way of like, again, saying, hey, you're a person that he could, reason with. Mm-hmm. Waylon, throughout the years, Bruce eventually was like, dude, we're getting too old for this.
Yeah.
Like, we can't keep, like, I know, like, you rob banks and do all this stuff, but like, you're also getting too big for the outside world. So why don't you just stay here? I'll feed you. You protect this from this. Like, I could see Bruce Wayne making that deal with Waylon.
Yeah.
Especially if Waylon were to get this big and be like, hey, like, you literally can't just go walking around everywhere. Like, you're going to crush people. You're going to cause more wreck than anything else. You can't just use money anymore.
Yeah.
I could see it happening. I want to know what's further down here. In this underground for sure. But I love these implications, and I again, we know that Bruce has done a lot of questionable things before, but it's for the greater good of both the individuals of Gotham and Gotham itself. So, like, even though this may sound bad, just know that it was probably to protect a whole lot of people.
Yeah, for sure, because we do see a Wayne Enterprise logo down there. And Terry's like, this is a labyrinth. Like, what's going on here, right? And Terry actually gets saved by, I forget his name. Kyle. Oh, yeah, because they're all after Selena. Kyle saves him with a flaming bomb. And Terry's like, man, I haven't seen that since like middle school. Like, you got to tell me how you did that. And, then we switch over to Buma, I believe. And she's talking to a lot of the people that have had their kids missing. And they're like, we're going to get justice and yada, yada. Then an earthquake happens. And we find out it's Loomis destroying a whole building. And they're like, what the hell are you doing? Like, these people need help and you're causing like problems or whatever. And it's interesting just to kind of end that part of the story because it skips between other panels. It's this moral dilemma type of thing where it's like, you say I'm ruining the world, but I just made this massive new place where it can hold thousands and thousands of families. Like, maybe you're just mad that I'm changing history, or like I'm making things better, but I'm not doing it your way, which is a weird dilemma that I think does happen in society. You know, it's like you guys want us to improve things for everybody, but when we do, because we don't do it your way, or maybe certain people can't be in this area anymore, you're mad, you know? Which, granted, it's never that simple. It's usually like, hey, we're going to come in, give you pennies, and then we're going to make multi-million-dollar places, and you can't live here anymore because you just don't fit the vibe, which is usually how it is. And that's kind of the same thing happening here. But if, you know, it comes down to the question of, like, if he's giving everybody a home, there's no excuse for homeless people or anything like that because they have a place to go. So, yeah, I don't know. It's pretty interesting. So there's that fight going on. But then we see Croc is essentially chasing Batman through this whole issue because he thought he beat him, and then he's like, no. He's like, you cannot go. Like, I have to protect this area. But he's like just mumbling like food, bones. And at this point, Batman looks like he's gonna kind of lose, and then Croc just gets KO'd by Kyle with some kind of magic powers, and Terry's just like,
yeah, so I looked at the wording of the magic spell.
Yeah.
I made sure to like turn it upside down, see if I could read it backwards and whatnot. It is not the same kind of magic that Zatanna uses for sure. Because none of those words spell anything backwards. But it is a powerful spell. To knock this Killer Croc on his ass and completely like knock him out is has to be pretty powerful. And even Terry's like, did you just kill him? Nah, he's just out cold for a bit. Don't know how long, but he's just out cold.
Yeah, it also seems like Terry doesn't know what magic is.
Yeah.
So I find that very interesting with having the knowledge of Batman.
But also in a very techno world society.
Yeah.
I think that the Batman Beyond universe is so far into the future that like I think all of that is old school. Like I don't think there's a whole lot of magic there.
That's fair. So yeah, what ends up happening is after he knocks him out, there's obviously another hole so they can go down to the next layer. He drops a flare and he's all like, and there was also this talk about how Batman is a symbol for hope. And so Kyle reiterates this here and he's like, then I hope you're not getting us both killed. And because he wants to leave. Like after fighting Croc, he's like, we need to go back up topside. And he's like, no, we got to find those kids. And he's like, what? They probably got eaten. And he was like, the way he was talking, no, he didn't eat them because like he's hungry. So he drops a flare down and it reveals that there is the tomb because, this is Croc says you cannot go to the tomb. Like I have to protect the tomb. And it is revealed it's the Court of Owls.
It says the tomb of owls. Yeah. It says next, who are the owls?
Yeah. So another thing Terry doesn't know. Usually I do get really annoyed when the Court of Owls are everywhere. It's like, oh yeah, let's just use the Court of Owls. I'm like, bro, come on. But this is Beyond. And I assume the court has probably been dead or gone for many, 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 many decades now because they were around during the time of Batman. And I like that they just didn't show up. If this is the tomb where they held all the dead bodies of the owls, because that is a thing, like there was an area, that's kind of cool. Because I'm like, yeah, what happened to all those dead bodies? You know what I mean?
I think that would be kind of cool. So, like, Bruce had Wayland protect the tomb so that way they couldn't be resurrected again.
Yeah.
I think that's a cool idea.
So,
but the idea also of the court still being active and Bruce letting them be active in some sort of capacity as far as like, hey, they haven't done anything bad to Gotham in quite some time. They are more of the Gotham of old. They probably don't care about the new Gotham, so they're not going to deal with that, and that's okay. New Gotham is my thing. Old Gotham is their thing. Like, maybe that was the deal that they probably broke. I don't know. Like, I think both can imply, like, really fun stories to tell with Terry.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see where they go with it. I would probably bet more that it's the tomb where all the bodies are.
Yeah.
And maybe somebody is alive down there. I don't know. I'm assuming to only keep the story going, you have to have people alive in every level.
Lincoln March.
Yeah. Oh, maybe. But we'll see. We'll see. It is intriguing though, because it was Beyond. I was like, oh, that's a interesting concept. But if it was like modern day Batman, I'd be like, okay. Like if Tom King brings out the owls, I'm gonna be like, bro, in the Penguin story. I'd be like, come on, man. Because yeah, they have been overused. I mean, they're gonna be one of the main figureheads, or they were the main figureheads in Gotham Knights, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I hope they're not in Suicide Squad. That would be terrible to have them in both games. But either way, that was the final book, ladies and gentlemen. Solid stuff. I did enjoy, 2 or 3 of the books this week, but a lot of them were just kind of like, they're just books. I feel like, is there a big book? Does Catwoman start next week? 2 weeks from now?
I think so.
Yeah. I will say, Jimenez has been dropping some good art from that, so at least it's going to look nice, but I don't have any faith in the story. So we'll see where that goes. At least we got this Penguin book now. I don't know. I'm assuming it's going to be monthly, probably not bi-weekly. So, we'll have to assume that, because he is also writing Wonder Woman, so I'm assuming Tom King's going to be just doing both of those. But, yeah, that is going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. Clay, what do you got going on this week, man?
So this week, if you go over to Star Wars Alliance, we did review the first 2 episodes of the Ahsoka series. So go check that out. And that is basically it. I have since started streaming again. Marvel Snap just recently launched their PC client. It looks great. I streamed just for a little bit over the past few days. The only time that I usually have to stream is pretty late at night, and it's usually to get some footage for the YouTube video that you're watching right now. So if you want to hang out there, just keep a notification out on the Discord, because I usually announce it there.
Yeah. Have you uploaded footage? Because I might use my Chainsaw Massacre footage.
I have not uploaded. I just recorded last night. I'm gonna be editing some stuff to
that'll probably be next week. It'll probably be next week if you want to see the Marvel Snap stuff, because I think I have enough footage for this podcast for Chainsaw Massacre. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I am streaming every Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday if you want to check that out. And I'm just working on a bunch of shit. So follow my socials. Although I did delete Twitter from my phone because I was on it too much. Just doom scrolling all the time. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it. As always, he is Fanboy Clay. I am Juice Wayne. And remember, Batman is awesome.